Hello. To start this lesson, I'd like you to think about things that you can and cannot do. I hope you've got some examples. Good, right. So what I'd like you to do is think about how difficult it is for you to do these things, how often you do these things, and did you do them when you were young? Usually, students will use can and can't to describe abilities in the present. And this is fine, but it's a little bit basic. And one of the reasons you're here today, looking at these lessons, is to develop your English and add more detail and talk about things with more sophistication. So first of all, we're going to look at can and can't and the past forms of can and can't. So with can in the present, subject plus can and can't with bare infinitive, that's the verb form that doesn't have to or ing, and often we can use an object at the end of this sentence as well. For example, I can cook many different dishes. So here I'm clearly stating I have the ability to cook different dishes. In the negative, she can't fly a plane. Very clear. This woman in general does not have the ability to fly a plane at all. They can sing and dance well. So here, a slightly more specific ability, but by using can, we're just stating very plainly what this person can do. And in this case, they can sing and dance well. The past form of can is could. So the sentences look very similar in terms of the structure. Subject with could or couldn't in the negative, bare infinitive again, and we can use an object at the end of these sentences as well. For example, I could run fast when I was a child. Now, because we're using could to describe a past ability, we sometimes suggest that maybe now in the present we can't do these things. So for example, I could run fast when I was a child. This suggests that the speaker is describing their inability, something they can't do in the present today, in comparison to what they could do when they were a child. I couldn't drive when I was at university. So again, we're stating in the past something that we were not able to do, what we couldn't do. And again, there's some contrast here. And what this person is saying, well, I couldn't drive at university, but probably now this person can. She could sing beautifully. So again, we're describing an activity in the past. Maybe this person doesn't sing anymore. Maybe we're talking about a singer from years ago who's no longer alive. But what we do know from this sentence is that in the past, this person could sing beautifully. So as we've seen, students can use can too much. And an alternative to can is a sentence that uses be able to. For example, subject, be or not able to with the bare infinitive and the object. Now the difference between can and be able to isn't very big, but be able to is quite useful because it offers an alternative, a bit of variety, and is more flexible when we're dealing with the past and the present in terms of ability. For example, I am able to fix computers. So again, we're just expressing the ability, exactly the same as can, but in a different way. She isn't able to play the guitar or the drums. So again, here we're expressing what somebody isn't able to do. We've used the negative this time, about present abilities. They are able to speak 3 languages fluently. So again, because of the subjects of the sentence, it's not is, it's are this time, but the structure is very similar, able to speak, talking about present abilities. Now, one of the good things about be able to is that it doesn't change too much when we move it into the past. For example, subject with was or were, we add not in the negative, able to, bare infinitive plus the object. For example, I was able to make people laugh when I was a child. So as you can see, very similar to be able to in the present, we've just moved it back into the past. And again, similar to could. This person is stating what they were able to do when they were younger. So possibly what they're saying now is that they are less able, as in maybe they are not able to make people laugh in the present. He wasn't able to sleep very well when he was a baby. So again, directly into the past with wasn't, and what we're describing here is the inability of this person to do something when he was a baby. Now presumably, in the present, this person can sleep quite well. We were able to come home late at night. So again, what we're describing here is a past ability and something that possibly isn't true today, or maybe things have changed a bit. We were able to come home late at night suggests this person is describing a time in their life when they were young, whereas now maybe they've got more responsibilities. But what we do know is that nowadays, in the present, these people are less able to do this activity. So far, we've looked at ways of expressing past and present ability in quite simple ways, just plainly stating what we can and cannot do, or in some cases what we could or couldn't do. Now what we're going to look at is a way of expressing ability in terms of describing the difficulty, specifically tasks that are difficult for us, but we succeeded anyway. And we use manage to in these situations. So, subject with manage or manages to in the third person, with bare infinitive and an object. For example, I usually manage to complete the reports for my boss before Friday. So we're not just stating that we can write the reports before Friday. What we're saying is that we manage to, as in we finish the reports, but it's not always easy for us to do this. I don't always manage to see all of my friends on a weekend. So again, this person is describing something that is difficult for them. In this case, it's difficult for them to see all of their friends, so they don't manage to. Also in this sentence, what we're seeing is that they're trying, but often they do not succeed. They don't manage to. He manages to have 3 jobs and study. So this situation is describing something very difficult. We're describing somebody with 3 jobs who also succeeds in studying. And so here we can see this is why we use manages to instead of can or could, which doesn't really give a lot of information about how difficult a task is. In the past, manages to is simple. It behaves like a regular verb and it becomes managed. And the sentence structure is exactly the same. For example, subject plus managed to with bare infinitive followed by the object. For example, we managed to buy the last ticket for the concert. So we're not talking about the present, we're talking about the past. And in this case, they successfully bought the last ticket, something that can be difficult, in the past. He didn't manage to finish the race because he was too tired. So in the negative, you can see it behaves a lot like the past simple. We use didn't with the present form of the verb. And in this case, he didn't manage to finish the race, as in he was unsuccessful. Why not? He was too tired. It was difficult, he tried, but he failed. So now let's take a look at the question forms of the grammatical structures we've looked at so far in the lesson. As you can see, we've got can and could in the past, be able to in the present and the past, as well as manage to in the present and past. All of these fairly typical questions. For example, can you speak Chinese? Well, a very common question to ask somebody about their ability to speak a language in the present. Could you cook when you were at university? So again, using could, we're talking about past abilities here, and the ability to cook at that time. In this case, when they were at university. Is he able to write code? So again, be able to is not very different from can, it's an alternative, and in this case, we're asking about the ability of somebody to write code in the present. In the past, were you able to find my keys yesterday? So again, we've got a specific time, so we use the past form of able to describe abilities. In this case, the ability to find keys yesterday. Do you manage to talk to your mother every weekend? Now remember, we use manage to specify the difficulty of a task and when it's in a question, whether or not somebody succeeded. In this case, we've got quite a specific context. The ability to get in contact with your mother every weekend. For some reason, it's difficult for this person. Maybe their computer's broken, maybe they've moved to another country, or their mother lives in a place where mobile phones don't work very well. But in this case, we want to know if they had the ability to succeed doing this difficult task. Did you manage to finish the housework? For some, housework is a difficult task, and here we're asking about the past. Were you able to finish that task previously, even though it was difficult for you? So, in today's lesson, we've looked at ways of expressing present and past ability in English. Specifically, we looked at can and the past form could, as well as an alternative to can, to be able to, and how we can use that in the past as well. We then looked at manage to and how we use manage to describe difficult situations, difficult activities, but we succeeded, or when we use the negative, how we did not succeed in completing this task, being able to do this thing. Then we looked at question forms. As usual, you're now going to take the exercises that follow this lesson. Good luck.